Hey, it's time for Ask Jack. In this video, we talk about escrow, appraisals, and home inspection. Check it out. Hey, this is Jack. Can I help you? Yeah, I'm looking forward to your call. Yeah, I have this time set aside for you. What can I do for you? Well, what I think I'm saying is you don't want to distribute any of the money that would be in the escrow account until the sale is actually closed and on record. What I'm saying is that you shouldn't distribute that money, and by distributing it, it means handing out the check. If you hand out the check, then you're distributing it, and you shouldn't do that until the deal is actually on record. I think, if I remember in the video, that's what we're talking about. Right. The list agent is going to be the seller's agent, and usually the seller's agent would have a check for the usually the list agent will have a check for the buyer side commission that they would give to the buyer agent. Well, that check from the seller's agency will technically be the buyer agency commission, and then the buyer agent will get some percentage of that. You see, the commission, because you as a salesperson cannot earn a commission directly. The commission or fee can only be paid to the agency. And then once the agency yes, the broker. And once the broker receives that fee, then they can split it with the agent. But the agent cannot receive the fee directly. That's an important and good test question. The agent cannot receive the fee directly. The fee technically goes to their broker. Then the broker shares it with the agent. Well, a good test question that we just covered there, remember, is that the salesperson cannot earn a commission directly. That sounds like a really good test question. And once you get going as a salesperson, your broker will know that rule anyways, or they should. And so they'll make sure that they take care of that. Right, only brokers can receive money. The salesperson's kind of like the last stop on the train, so to speak. And remember, the salesperson cannot receive anything of value. Anything of value has to be given to the broker. Deeds, it's when the attorney who closes the sale records the deed at the registry of deeds. And that was very common. They used to do it in person, but now most of the time it's done electronically. And it's on record when the clerk at the registry of deeds or the computer stamps it as received. When they stamp it as received, then it's on record, and then the deal is done. There's it's a done deal. Up until that moment, technically the deal isn't done yet. Well, especially with the virus, basically everything's electronic now. I imagine some of the registry of deeds probably has drop boxes for some of the attorneys, but a lot of the deeds are being recorded electronically. That's correct. They'll do the whole thing in their office. Then typically the attorney will do the whole thing in their office. They'll get a confirmation that it's on record. They'll usually then email all the parties announcing, hey, we're on record. And once you get that email, then the broker will distribute any funds that would be required to be distributed once the deal is closed. Not before, but once it's closed and on record. And usually you wait for this confirmation email that will come from the closing attorney. If they don't send it, you or anybody really can just go onto the Registry of Deeds website and look up to make sure that the transaction has in fact closed. Remember, the Registry of Deeds is a public library of land records. Anybody can access it, and so anybody can look it up. So once it's closed, then you can distribute the money, your broker. Sure. So let's talk about that. There's in a typical residential sale, there'll be 2 times at least where there's a value placed on the house, where someone makes an assessment. That's not the word I wanted. An estimate. That's the better word. Where someone makes an estimate of value. First, it will be the seller agent. They'll say, we think your house is worth $500,000. That'll be in the beginning of the process. Then the seller themselves says, yes, I think it's worth $500,000. Can you help me sell it? So at first, the seller's agent makes this estimate. And we do that for a residential property using one of the 3 approaches to value, which would be the sales comparison approach, which we'll talk about in class if you haven't gotten to that point yet. The other time that someone makes an assessment, an estimate of value, will be through the appraisal process. And that only comes, typically, that comes after the accepted offer, after the home inspection, and after the purchase and sale is completed. So about 3 weeks into the process. And this is where the bank, the lender, double checks to make sure that the value of the property, might want to write this down, this is important if you haven't taken this section of class, where they want to make sure that the property value is at or above the agreed price. This protects the lender from over-lending and getting overextended on the property. Right, the home inspection is typically at the sole discretion of the buyer. And if the buyer didn't like it, they can back out before the deadline and get a refund of their deposit at their sole discretion. In the offer that the buyer's agent writes up, they'll pick a deadline, usually 7 to 10 days for your typical house inspection. And you have to complete the inspection within that, let's just call it a week. You've got to complete the inspection within a week. And then typically you get plus 1 day. So by the 8th day, you would either have to be okay with the home inspection or back out. And this is a deadline that's written into the offer by the buyer's agent. Okay. Well, that was easy. I'm glad you called. Alrighty. Well, hey, listen, I'm glad to do this again if you want. So if you want to do this again, that's great. My pleasure. I'm happy to help out whenever you're ready. You too. Bye-bye. Call anytime.